Hi there, my name is Richard Murfitt. I'm a brand transformation expert and I help CEOs, entrepreneurs and brand leaders in dot-coms and online companies to create breakthroughs in their brand performance and turbocharge their business growth. Now, in this particular video, I've got another stonker for you. I'm really excited to talk about this one because for me, again, this is another really big needle mover for online companies that if they get this and they see this as a possible breakthrough for their brand, that this can really be quite transformative. Now, the myth I want to debunk, or the rule I want to break here, is an assumption or commonly held convention that really brands should not stand against something. They should only stand for something. Now, we all get why that might be. You know, we don't want to be over here, you know, being negative and, you know, aggressive or kind of like campaigning like against something. Of course, you know, it's much more positive to be over here, especially in these economic times, that we want to be, you know, positive and, you know, kind of like, you know, happy days, for want of a better phrase, you know. But the thing here, and this is the thing, is that this is actually quite sort of tunnel vision and narrow-minded. Now, if we were to take a step back and I try and present this in another way to you and look at brands instead as people, and now look at, if we go back in time, as brands or people in history that have changed the world, the rule breakers that have changed history. And what I mean by that, so if we said, take like Gandhi or, you know, Martin Luther King or Galileo, you know, very different kinds of people over different parts of history. Now, you know, these people were very clear what they were for and also what they were against. And it was only by having that definition of what they were against that gave them real sort of understanding and kind of clarity of the campaign of what they were for, and understand of creating then a movement of people that were behind them to kind of create this new dream of a world that could be and should be and that they wanted it to be. You know, so Gandhi stood against British imperialism, you know, in India, and stood peacefully, positively for a new dream and a new world of a free India. Now, he could only do that by understanding what was the problem or what was wrong with the world as he saw it, therefore to give him what was possible, you know. So if you were to try and then think, okay, so these are the rule breakers and the change makers and the history makers, and if I was a brand and I stood, you know, for something and against something, what starts to become possible? It's like one of those blind spots again. You peer out of it once you're aware of it's there, and you think, okay, if my brand stands for this and against this, because obviously they relate to each other, yeah? Often because if what you stand for, there's obviously a opposite side of the coin. But the problem is that we are often so narrow-minded that we think that there has to be a binary choice between the two. Of course not. There has to be, or there's the opportunity is like where you want to kind of focus on your sliding scale between the two, but understanding that, you know, your brand has definition when you really understand both sides of it. And then you operate your communications, your product development, ideas, innovation along that spectrum where the opportunity lies to kind of communicate. So I take, for example, Body Shop. It stood clearly against animal testing. And then as well as it did for natural beauty products, yeah? But that brand really had definition. It had a campaigning mode, but it had very much, you know, a real sense of a mission inside its stores and a product to sell, yeah? And there are many other brands that do that and do it really well. Dove have done it with the campaign for real beauty. standing against things and for how real women are in society, rather than a perceived view of models and fashion industry that want to perpetuate an image of women in a certain particular way. And if we were to go, step back and think again of history makers like the Gandhis, like the Martin Luther Kings and the Galileos, and so many other big people in history that have stood for and against, they have created movements of change and put their names in history books and created legacies. Can you imagine if you then translated that for your brand and moved it from just a brand that stands for something into a movement of change? That would be powerful, yeah? Not only would you potentially be a history maker and a change maker and go down in history like Steve Jobs did for Apple, but your brand opens up the possibility that your customers are not just customers, they're fans, they're part of your movement of change. And that is so powerful. So I hope you've really found that useful, in the sense that there's probably been a blind spot there, that, understanding you don't want to go there because the fear of where it might lead. But actually, when you really kind of open it up, possibilities and the breakthroughs that's there, if you want to open it up, are probably really powerful. So I hope to see you on the next video where I debunk some more myths and hopefully create some more breakthroughs for you. Thank you.